Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Now you might notice something ever so slightly different about this video, and this is because yesterday my lovely monitor decided that its power supply didn't want to work anymore. So I've ordered a new one, but today I'm trying to record this video on a very slow laptop. So I'm working with very limited materials here. So if things aren't quite up to par, if the sound doesn't sound right, if the quality of the video isn't quite good, isn't, decent, that's all on me, because I am working with some rather outdated technology in order to try and do this. Now, to make things easier on myself, I'm going to be checking out a band that I checked out only about a couple of weeks ago, the band Rivers of Nihil. Now, I checked out their track, The Void from Which No Sound Escapes, I think that's what it was called. And I got very excited about the band. I was very enthusiastic about it. It sounded great. The music was fantastic. The performance was outstanding. And, one of the few metal bands I've ever seen that have actually successfully ever included a saxophone in the music, and it sounds great. Now, after doing that video, many people suggested the track to me, Where Owls Know My Name. So that's the track I'm going to look at today, hopefully. So, in trying to keep this going as good as I possibly can, we're going to jump into the track. I do have lyrics here. Like I said, I'm working on a very slow laptop, so hopefully this works. We'll jump into this track and see what we've got. So, this is Where Owls Know My Name by Rivers of Nihil. Let's have a look.
Days we were
Well, there you go. Where Owls Know My Name by the Rivers of Nile. And what an incredibly silly video. That was incredibly entertaining. And it was actually quite different to the last track that I checked out. When I checked out The Void from Which No Sound Escaped, I think that's what it was called. You know, that started off really very, very heavy and was pretty heavy and brutal throughout most of the track. This had sort of more had a more sort of jazzy sort of feel going on to the music, but it was still very, very good. You know, the musical performance again, fantastic. Again, I think I mentioned it in the last track as well. You can really hear the bass coming through, and you know, I've said this on several occasions. The bass is very often one of those instruments that sort of gets relegated to the background, and more often than not gets drowned out by everything else. You don't tend to hear the bass all that often. And like I said, the video, hugely entertaining, very, very silly, obviously not taking themselves too seriously. I mean, at points during that video, they even seem to be actually laughing at themselves, you know, for the video being so ridiculous. And I will say it's not at all what I expected. And the vocal performance, again, coming through in this, you know, fantastically performed, harsh vocals by two different singers, so it seems, which I don't think came through. Did they do that in the first video that I checked out? I can't remember. But you know, they've got three different vocal styles in there. You know, they had the cleaner vocals, they had the two different harsh vocals, and there are elements of this that sort of reminded me, obviously, of Opeth. You know, because Opeth do tend to go into these sort of jazzy style, you know, pieces of music as they tended to do in this. But there are also elements that sort of reminded me a bit of maybe Amorphis and Swallow the Sun. So you know, a good encapsulation of a whole bunch of groups that I really, really enjoy. And again, I really like this piece of music. You know, after I heard that first track, I said I need to get my hands on some of their music, and you know, it goes without saying I still need to do that. But you know, funds have been somewhat limited, and you know, I've had other payouts to deal with, and with my monitor deciding to crap itself, I've got yet another thing to pay out for. But yeah, what a fantastic track. Now, I do have the lyrics up here on a smaller screen, which is what I was peeking at throughout the video. You know, I need to invest in a decent station with more than one monitor, rather than working with a crappy old laptop. Anyway, there is actually a quote that goes alongside these lyrics, and it says, Utley and Biggs stated the following regarding the album's concept and the lyrical content. Owls, I mean, I believe the whole album is called Where Owls Know My Name. It says, Owls is essentially the story of the last man on Earth. He was made immortal by the planet itself, the conscious seed of light, as it were, to be the sole intelligent witness of the death of the planet. Really, though this is all set dressing for the more emotional content on display here, so looking too closely at the lyrics for story purposes is probably a bit of a futile effort, in my opinion. Well, that's not good boding for me, is it? Because I tend to do that. It's just really about loss, getting older, and coping with the things you've done in your life. We'll be there as soon as we possibly can. So essentially, the song is about, you know, getting older, dealing with loss, and you know, dealing with things that you've done in your life, like regrets, and you know, things that you wish you hadn't done, things you wish you had done, etc. Be quiet. And the lyrics go, and then I wished you away. I lost those memories of those days we weren't forsaken. Why don't we just relax our eyes and fall into a dream? Let it take my mind where owls know my name, and it gets colder every day. Lost in eternity's grasp, withdrawing further from what we have known, this mentality that we've built is breaking down. Still running away from it, you're still dreaming, still hoping that there's something that may be worth seeking. You've wasted all that you have been given, still hoping to find a way to make life worth living. Lost in eternity's grasp, we'll find no way to weather the storm. This mentality that we built is breaking down. All the same, every path you take, you remain trapped within your shame. Go away, far away, separate from the shame. Lost in eternity's grasp, withdrawing further from what we have known, this mentality that we've built, it's breaking down. I brought myself to this place where only owls who would know me. This reality that I've built is an empty space. So there you go. And I think I said this about the last track as well. I love the way it's been written. You know, there's just like certain phrases and lines in there that I just love the sound of. And every time they've come into this chorus, it's always been slightly different. Well, I say always. You know, they did the chorus 3 times, and they did make variations to it. And again, it sounded great. You know, the music of this band, it's just fantastic. Like I said, this is a bit more jazzy than the first track that I checked out, and I will say I do prefer the first track that I checked out, The Void from Which No Sound Escaped. I do prefer that track, but I still really, really like this track as well. It sounded amazing. But I'm not sure what else I can say on that, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Now, if anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, them, please do so by all means. You can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, which would of course be a massive help to me, since, you know, every piece of content I create gets immediately demonetized the moment I upload it. And that's a little bit frustrating, but you know, it is what it is. There is an option in Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue if you should so desire it. There's a limit on how often you can do that, and that's just to be fair to people who suggest tracks through more regular means, such as Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram comments. If you do make suggestions through those more regular means, do know it could take me a while to get around to your suggestions, since I do get suggested so many new tracks every single day that my list grows faster than I can record the videos. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it should get done eventually. It just might take me a while to get around to it. Also, MetalHead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose goal is to put an end to hate crimes. And one of the main facets of that is hate crimes against people of the alternative community. And it's something I believe in very strongly, and it's something that very frequently sort of gets brushed over. You know, people just sort of ignore it and don't pay it any attention. And that's something that really needs to change, because it's a very real problem that's been going on for decades. And, you know, we're not just talking about people shouting insults or, you know, shoulder ramming someone from the alternative community as they're walking down the street. We're talking about brutal, violent crimes where people are getting hospitalized, sometimes with broken limbs, and sometimes even more life-threatening injuries. And, you know, every day we hear about all these other hate crimes like sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, religious hatred, ableism, etc. We hear about these on a daily basis, from the most heinous and violent of these crimes down to the most petty and pathetic and childish of these crimes. We hear these in every facet of the news on a daily basis. But as soon as it comes to someone from the alternative community getting violently and brutally assaulted, nothing ever gets said. You know, the last time there was a widespread conversation about this sort of thing was 14 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently and brutally assaulted by a group of 5 or 6 people who beat them so severely, they stamped on their heads so violently that they both ended up in comas. Now, Rob Maltby, he thankfully survived the assault. He was in a coma for around about a week and a half, maybe a little bit longer. But Sophie Lancaster was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries, and she died. This young woman was 20 years old and was beaten to death just because of her taste in music and clothing. Now, when this happened, this was all over the news, as rightfully it should have been, and over time the story faded into the background, as you'd expect it to. But in the 14 years since that happened, we've not heard a single story like it. You know, nothing has been said since. Yet there have been several hundred, if not several thousand, similar incidents in that time. The only major difference is that no one has died as a result. And that's the key feature there. That people won't speak about this unless someone dies. And that's unacceptable. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before this gets spoken about. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to die before something gets done. And that's what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more attention to the fact that this is happening. They want more people to talk about this. They want there to be more recognition of the fact that this is a very real problem and deserves as much attention as all of these other hate crimes that get spoken about on a daily basis. Because the more we ignore it, the more it's going to happen, because the people committing these crimes feel that they can get away with it because no one's going to pay any attention to it.
And if we carry on ignoring it, it's only a matter of time before what happened to Sophie Lancaster happens again, and we cannot allow that to happen. You know, they don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to watch their daughter slowly die over the course of 2 weeks because of the small-minded actions of a group of people who couldn't handle the fact that somebody liked something different to them, that not everybody likes the same thing. These violent crimes against people of the alternative community deserve as much attention and as much, you know, they deserve to be spoken about just as much as any other hate crime. But at the moment, they're not getting spoken about, nothing's getting done, they're just getting ignored. And that needs to change. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there's a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their overall goal is, because they can explain it a heck of a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, obviously you don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any small way, whether it be a small donation through their website or something as simple as like one of these Sophie wristbands, maybe even that one, you know, they've got a whole bunch of other really cool stuff going on over there. But, you know, the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.